I think I'm accidentally raising an entitled child. My 5-year-old had a meltdown last week because the rice was touching the fritter in her lunch bowl. So I separated them into 2 bowls. And I'm standing there thinking, when did I become the person who rearranges food just to avoid tantrums? In this video, 5 subtle signs you might be doing this too, and exactly what to do instead. Look, none of us wake up thinking we're going to raise entitled kids, right? Like, we're out here trying to be the good parents. But then somewhere along the way, something shifts, and it's not this big sign that goes, hey, you're messing this up. It kind of just sneaks in through these tiny little moments that you don't even realize, like that extra snack that you give just to avoid the whining, or the homework that you sit beside them doing and you end up doing more of it than they are. Or the yes that you give in to after they ask you 17 times. And I don't know about you, but I've had this kind of creeping fear lately. Am I raising kids who can handle life? Or am I raising kids who expect the world to just bend to their every need and every desire? So in this video, I'm giving you the exact fixes without shame or without guilt, just what you can actually do. We're going to go through the 5 signs, why it happens, why it matters, and how to fix it. Sound good? Let's go. I got a call from a client last week. Her daughter, who's 8 years old, came home from school crying, like literally sobbing her eyes out because nobody wanted to sit with her at lunchtime. And this mom is on the phone with me, her voice is shaking, and she's asking me, what do I do? How do I fix this? And so I start by asking her some questions. Has your daughter been bossing around other kids at recess? Long pause. Yeah, I mean, other parents have mentioned it, but she's 8. Kids are bossy, right? Okay. Has she been making up rules to games halfway through? Has she been getting upset when she doesn't win? Well, yes, but that's just because she's competitive. When you correct her at home, how does she react? Another pause. Longer this time. Not great, she melts down. She says I'm being mean, that I hate her, that it's not fair. And I'm listening to this mom describe her daughter, and I can see exactly what happened. And it's not just in that moment, but it's probably built up from thousands of tiny moments over 8 years. Because here's what led to that lunch table. The first cost of raising entitled kids. She struggles with relationships because she's never learned that friendships aren't about control. They're about give and take. Every time she bossed kids around at recess, they put up with it for a little while. But kids have a limit, and eventually they just walked away. Cost number 2. She can't handle being corrected. When another kid tells her that's not how we play, her whole sense of self crumbles. Like she's never developed the muscle that says I can be wrong and I can still be okay. So therefore, every disagreement feels like an attack. Every boundary feels like a personal rejection of her. Cost number 3. She doesn't contribute to relationships. It's all about what she wants to play, what she wants to do, what she needs. She never learned that relationships require thinking about what other people want too. So being her friend feels exhausting. And then the mom says something that just broke my heart because it resonated so much. I just wanted her to feel confident. I never wanted her to feel bad about herself. And I had to tell her you succeeded at that, but maybe just a little bit too well. What you didn't teach her is that other people's feelings matter just as much as hers. Because I'm picturing this 8-year-old girl sitting at that lunch table, all alone, watching groups of kids laughing together at other tables, and she has no idea why. In her mind, she's just trying to have fun. She doesn't see that she's been dictating and not playing. She doesn't see that she's been demanding instead of sharing, that she's been taking but not giving. And the worst part is, she's not a mean kid. She's not trying to be difficult. She just genuinely doesn't understand. Cost number 4, she's missing out on real connection. Because when everything is about you, you never experience the joy of making someone else happy, of thinking about what your friend wants, of the satisfaction that comes with contributing to something that's bigger or more than just yourself. She's missing sleepovers, birthday party invitations, inside jokes, best friends. And it's not because kids are mean. They just don't want to be around someone who makes everything just about themselves. So that mom asked me, how did this happen? When did it start? And here's what I told her. It started the first time she didn't want her daughter to feel disappointed, so she fixed it for her. Or it started when the feedback felt too harsh, so she softened it for her daughter. Or it started when asking her daughter to contribute to the family felt like too much to ask, so she just did it for herself. It was quicker anyway. It started with 1,000 small moments of, I don't want her to struggle. And therefore her daughter never learned that she could struggle and still be okay. Entitled kids don't just grow up to be annoying adults, they grow up lonely. They struggle to keep jobs because they can't handle feedback. They struggle to maintain relationships because everything has to be their way. And then they wonder why life feels so much harder for them than for everyone else. And by the time they're teenagers, adults, they're trying to figure out why they feel so isolated. Why the gap between what they expect and what the world actually gives them is so huge. That little girl sitting alone at lunch, that's the cost of entitlement. But here's the good news. Once you see these patterns, you can change them. That's why we're going through these 5 signs. All right, let's get into the first sign. This one is sneaky because it doesn't look like entitlement at first. It just looks like you being a really loving and attentive parent. So here's how it might look, okay? Your kid has a meltdown over something really small, and your immediate reaction is to fix it. Add sprinkles to the boring cereal, find the specific stuffed animal they want or they can't go to bed, hand them the iPad just to stop the crying. Whatever makes the sadness go away as fast as possible. When this happens over and over, kids start to believe that being upset is something that they need to avoid at all costs, and that someone else should step in to make these bad feelings disappear. So why does this happen? It's not that kids are manipulative, it's that we love them so much that we don't want to see them suffer. Seeing them upset actually hurts us physically, so we fix it for them fast. But what we're accidentally teaching them is that being upset means that something's wrong, and someone else, usually mom or dad, should step in and make the bad feelings disappear. Over time, kids start to believe that unhappiness isn't allowed, that negative emotions equal failure, and that they can't handle discomfort on their own. Let me tell you why this is such a big deal. If kids never practice feeling upset or disappointed, they miss the chance to build resilience. And resilience is literally one of the most important life skills they're ever going to need. Think about it. Life isn't always comfortable. Jobs are stressful. Relationships have conflict. Not everyone makes the team or gets the part in the school play. But if your kid has never learned that discomfort is survivable, then every setback feels like a huge catastrophe. So what's the fix? You're not being cold or withholding comfort, but you're just shifting from fixing everything to validating. So instead of rushing in with a solution, try this. I can see you're really upset. I'm glad you told me. That simple response shows your child that their feelings are real, that they're safe, but they can survive the moment without everything being fixed for them. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to just sit with them, let the storm pass. A few months ago, my son came home really upset about being the slowest swimmer in his class. His first response was anger. The teacher didn't show him how to do it properly. The lesson was boring. They had to do so many laps. It's just not fair. Old me would have jumped right in and said, "You're right, let me email your teacher." But instead I said, "That must have felt terrible when you were the last one to reach the finish line. I'm so glad you told me." And then I just sat there. I didn't fix it. And after a minute, he said, "I guess I haven't been learning swimming for as long as the other kids in school. Do you think we could restart those additional swimming classes after school so I can get more practice?" Just like that, he moved from blame to problem solving on his own because I didn't rush in. Remember, validate the feelings, but don't always fix the problem. That's where they're going to start to build resilience. The second sign is when your child rarely shows you any kind of gratitude unless you remind them. So here's what this looks like. You give your child their dinner plate and they just start eating without any acknowledgement. Or you spend your entire Saturday driving them to a football practice, sitting in the car waiting, and then when they get back in, they slam the door, stick in their earbuds, and then they just completely ignore you. And when you do step in with that classic line, what do you say? The thank you comes out flat, as though they're just checking a box just to get you off their back. This doesn't usually happen because kids are ungrateful people. What happens is that they've gotten so used to things being done for them that it stops feeling special anymore. Because when life runs so smoothly and their needs are always met, they just start to assume that that's how the world works. People take care of me, that's normal. And here's why this matters. Without gratitude, kids are going to struggle to see effort and generosity from others. Everything just becomes background noise. The rides to school, the packed lunches, the clean clothes, the help with homework, it all becomes invisible. And when you can't see effort, you can't appreciate it. And when you can't appreciate it, then you can't reciprocate it. And that's how entitlement grows. There's actually research from UC Berkeley showing that kids who practice gratitude regularly are less anxious, more resilient, and better able to connect with others. They even found that kids who wrote down 3 things that they were grateful for each day for just 3 weeks are 20% more likely to help others and better able to cope when things don't go their way. Think about that. 3 weeks, that's not a long time. So what's the fix? Think of gratitude like a muscle. It has to be used in order to get stronger. So start with modeling. Let your kids hear you say, "Thanks for making dinner," to your partner, or "I really appreciate your help," to the cashier. Kids copy what they see more than what they're told. Next, reinforce gratitude, but don't turn it into a guilt trip. So if your child forgets, you can just calmly say, "Let's try that again. What do you say when someone does something for you?" That way, gratitude becomes the expectation, not just the exception once in a while. And finally, celebrate when they get it right. "I love how you thanked your sister for sharing. That was really thoughtful." When gratitude is noticed and reinforced, it starts to become second nature. The goal isn't to create kids who say thank you just for the sake of it. But the goal is to raise kids who notice, appreciate the effort that goes into things that they receive. And once they make that shift, that's the opposite of entitlement. All right, sign number 3. This one shows up the moment you set any kind of limit. So here's what this might look like. You say no to something. It could be anything. "No, you can't have another biscuit." "No, we can't go to the park right now." "No, you can't watch another episode." And suddenly it's explosive. Tears, slammed doors, or this negotiation that lasts longer than the actual thing that they wanted. Or maybe it's smaller, but it's this pattern where they act like you've ruined their entire week over just one small limit. Over time, you start to notice that you avoid saying no just to keep the peace. You soften it, you negotiate, you cave, because it's exhausting to hold the limit every time. Why does this happen? It's because many kids simply haven't had enough practice hearing no and getting through it. If we always soften the blow, if we always cave in as soon as things start to escalate, they start to learn that no means try harder to change mom's mind. Here's why this matters. Life is full of no's. Not making the team, not getting invited to the party, getting turned down for a job one day. If our kids never build the muscle to cope with disappointment, then every setback is going to feel unfair or unbearable. I remember a few months ago, my son came home from school and immediately asked for his iPad. He needed to log on to TT Rockstars, which is Times Table Rockstars, because he needed to increase his score or else everyone in his class would be ahead of him. When I said no, he started insisting that all of his friends were logging on at home and they were going to get ahead of him and he'd be the most behind in his class. "Please, Mom, it'll just be for 10 minutes and it's educational. I'm practicing my times tables." And I started to feel my resolve crumbling. I thought he's not really wrong. It is educational. Maybe I'm just being too rigid about screen time. But then I caught myself. Hang on, what am I teaching him right now? If I cave, I'm teaching him that persistence and a good argument can manipulate outcomes, that a no is negotiable. So I took a breath and I said, "I can see you're really worried about falling behind. And I know this feels really important, but the answer is still no. You can practice at school tomorrow." He was furious. He stomped away, gave me the cold shoulder all evening, and I sat there feeling terrible. But you know what happened? The next morning, he came outside, asked what was for breakfast, and everything was normal. He had survived the disappointment, and he didn't bring up TT Rockstars again. So what's the fix? Hold the boundary with calm confidence. You don't have to argue, over-explain, or make them feel guilty. Just stay steady. Try saying, "I know that's not the answer you wanted, and I can see that you're upset, but the answer is still no." That way, your child learns 2 crucial lessons. No is survivable, and boundaries aren't personal attacks. And the key is, the first few times you do this, expect pushback. That's normal. But the more consistent you are, the faster your child learns that disappointment doesn't equal disaster. Because kids who can hear no and then bounce back, they're not just less entitled, they're more resilient, adaptable, and ready for the real world. Sign number 4 is when your child rarely takes any responsibility. Everything is someone else's fault. You might hear things like, "The teacher didn't explain it right after a failed test," or "My sister made me do it," when a rule gets broken. At first, this sounds harmless, right? Kids naturally want to protect themselves. But if blaming becomes their default response, then they never learn that their actions or their choices have consequences. Why does this happen? Often it's us stepping in too quickly. We argue with the coach, we email the teacher, we smooth things over so they don't have to feel uncomfortable. We're trying to protect them. But the message is, if something goes wrong, someone else must be responsible. Here's why this is a problem. If kids can't own their part in something, then they can't change it. It's as simple as that. And years down the line, they're going to turn into adults who deflect, deny, or crumble the moment they're held accountable for anything. Just last week, my daughter hit her brother with a toy. When I asked her what happened, she immediately said, "He took my toy first. He made me hit him." And look, I get it. Her brother probably did take the toy. But my immediate instinct was to jump in, say, okay, let me sort this out. Let me explain to both of them what they did. Maybe even tell her brother off so she feels heard. Then I stopped myself and I thought, what am I teaching her here? That hitting's okay if someone upset you first? That your actions are always someone else's fault? So instead I said, I hear you. You're upset he took your toy. But hitting is not okay, even when you're angry. What else could you do next time? She went into her room to sulk. She didn't want to talk. She was mad at me. But then after half an hour, they forgot about it. And the next time they fought, she came to me instead of hitting him. So what do you actually do? You let natural consequences do some of the teaching for you. If homework doesn't get done, then their grades are going to reflect that. If their chores don't get done, then they're not going to get their privileges. And then model it yourself. When you mess up, say out loud, "This one's on me, I forgot. Next time I'll set a reminder." Your kids are watching what you own way more than when you just lecture them about it. And then when they try to shift blame, redirect them. I hear what you're saying about your brother. What's something you could have done differently? You're not trying to make them feel bad. It's just about helping them see that they have the power to change things. But it starts with them owning their part. All right, the last sign. They expect benefits without contribution. Here's what this looks like, okay? Your child wants the next comic in the series, or the new video game console, or the new trainers, whatever it is. But when you ask them to do something basic, like put their toys away, get their own snack, or bring their plate to the sink, suddenly it's this whole huge thing. Whining, complaining, or just flat out refusing. And it's not even big tasks. It's stuff that they're totally capable of doing, but they've gotten so used to everything being done for them. So the moment that you ask for anything, you get massive pushback. Why does this happen? We give too freely. Look, I'm not saying don't help your kids. I'm saying we sometimes do things for them that they could easily do for themselves. We get their snack when they could get it. We pick up their toys when they could do it. We bring them things when they could walk over and get it themselves. Over time, kids start to see these things as services that you provide for them, not things that they need to participate in. Here's why this matters. There's a study, the Harvard Grant Study, which is one of the longest running studies on human development. They followed people for over 75 years. And you know what they found was one of the biggest predictors of success in adulthood? Contributing at home as a kid. It's not their grades, not their IQ, not how much money their parents had, but contribution. Because when kids contribute, even in small ways, they learn that their actions matter, they learn teamwork, they build confidence, they develop a sense of responsibility. But kids who grow up never having to lift a finger, they struggle because they've never learned that being part of a family or any group means that everyone needs to pitch in. Yesterday, my daughter asked me to set up her art supplies so she could paint. I was working on my laptop doing something important. I had a deadline and I was really focused. I could have stopped what I was doing and go and set it all up for her. It's faster, it keeps her happy, and then I can just get back to work. But then I stopped myself. She's 5. She knows where all the art supplies are. They're all in one place, completely accessible to her. She can do this. So I said, I'm working right now and I need to finish this. You know where the art supplies are. You can go set them up for yourself. She complained, but I don't know how. You do it. I stayed calm. I said, I know you've done it before. I know you can do it. The paints are in the cupboard, the paper's on the shelf. She huffed, but then she got up and she did it herself. And you know what? When she finished, she was so proud when she came to me to show me her painting. And it wasn't just of the painting, but that she had set up and packed away the painting supplies all on her own. So what's the fix? It's not just about creating a chore chart or making them earn everything. It's about stopping yourself from doing things for them that they can do themselves. So when they ask you to bring them something and you know they're perfectly capable of getting it themselves, don't. Say calmly, you can get that for yourself. Or when toys are left all over the floor, don't pick them up for them. Say toys need to go back in the cupboard before dinner. And when they do help, even just bringing their own plate to the sink, acknowledge it. Thank you for helping. That makes things easier for everyone. The goal isn't to make life harder for them, but it's to teach them that being part of a family means that everyone has to contribute, even in small ways, and that their actions matter. So if you've noticed some of these signs in your own kid, here's what I need you to hear loud and clear. This does not mean you failed as a parent. Entitlement isn't a life sentence, it's a pattern, and patterns can be changed. The fact that you're watching this video tells me something important, that you care enough to reflect, to learn, and to do things differently. The good news is that kids are incredibly adaptable, with consistent small shifts, validating instead of fixing, encouraging gratitude, holding firm boundaries, letting them feel consequences, and stopping yourself from doing what they can do for themselves. You're going to start to see changes. It's not going to be overnight, but it will happen gradually, like strengthening a muscle. Every time you hold a boundary with love, or pause instead of rescuing, or let them do something yourself, you're helping your child build resilience, build gratitude, and responsibility. So here's my challenge. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Pick one sign that stood out to you most today. I'm sure you recognize one that you see most in your child. Just one sign, focus on that this week, and practice that one change consistently. Maybe it's not taking their dish to the sink after they finish dinner, and then see what happens. And to make things easier, I've put together a simple infographic with all of the 5 signs, what they look like, the root cause, why it matters, and how to fix it. You can grab that free download in the description below. And if you want to go deeper, drop a comment and let me know. Which of these 5 signs show up the most in your house? What's the hardest part about setting these boundaries? I'd love to hear your stories. Now, if there's a little voice inside your head saying, okay, but I'm holding all of these boundaries and saying no more and not rescuing them, am I going to damage our connection? Am I being too harsh? How do I stay close to them while doing all of this? I've got another video that walks you through exactly that. How I build real connection with my kids, even on the busiest days, without falling into this trap of overgiving. You can click on that right here. I'll see you there.